going on, guys? July 5th, and back to the lab again, back with my whiteboard. As many of you know, I was gone for almost a week. I was gone for 5 days at the E-City Ranch, so I wasn't able to really catch up on much of the news as I was out there. I didn't have time. I hardly had internet for a couple days, but a couple of the stories that I did notice while I was there, I want to discuss in my first video back here. And the first thing I want to discuss is this executive order that was just signed by President Trump a few days ago on June 30th. And that executive order was to reestablish the National Space Council. Now, the National Space Council was first established by Bush Sr. in 1989 on April 20th. But anyway, it ran from 1989 to 1993. Quite interesting, actually, that it only ran the 4 years that Bush Sr. was in office. We'll discuss that a little more later. But this Space Council only ran for 4 years. It was disestablished and was gone for about 25 years. Now, what President Trump has done is revived it. He's reestablished it. And this council is going to resume operations, and it's going to consist of quite a few people. And I'm going to run through the list of a few of the people who are on this council. So the vice president is the chair. So Mike Pence is the chair of this National Space Council. We have the Secretary of State, the Secretary of Defense, of Commerce, of Transportation, Secretary of Homeland Security, the Director of National Intelligence is going to be on this, and a few other folks. Now, actually quite a few people. Now, what occurred, which then made me really wonder what this is all about, is the things that were said during the president's remarks on the speech. So after he signed this executive order on June 30th, he gave a speech. And as I've said in other videos, when the president gives speeches, you really need to listen closely, and you need to listen from a multi-dimensional perspective when hearing what he says, because there's often little double entendres or some doublespeak in the things he says, and I think there was quite a bit of doublespeak that was going on during this executive order. One of my favorite parts of this was near the end, and he simply said, the human soul yearns for discovery. By unlocking the mysteries of the universe, we unlock the truths within ourselves. Our journey into space will not only make us stronger and more prosperous, but will unite us behind grand ambitions and bring us all closer together. He kind of made his few chuckles, and he said he hoped politics would be what does that. Obviously it wasn't. And he said, well, we'll have to rely on space to bring us together instead. Interesting. And what's really interesting is I have written here, Buzz Aldrin was there. Buzz Aldrin was actually standing like 2 feet from the president, right next to him, when the president was giving this speech. And this made quite a few headlines around the mainstream media, but Buzz Aldrin was making a lot of weird faces. He was kind of looking senile, or like he had Parkinson's up there or something, but Buzz Aldrin did not look happy in a few of those faces. And what I want to say here is that Buzz Aldrin, in my opinion, and what I've seen this dude do, I think he is essentially a front. He's a facade, much like NASA is a facade hiding a lot of the secret space projects and making people believe that that's all we have. I think Buzz Aldrin has been a central figure in that facade, in partial disclosures instead of a full disclosure, okay? Because Buzz Aldrin, just a few years ago, he was on C-SPAN talking about monoliths being on Mars moon Phobos. Now, you're not going to be able to get on C-SPAN and say these things unless you're allowed to. Buzz Aldrin also walks around quite a bit with a shirt that says, let's get our ass to Mars. And he's very vocal in pressing a lot of space disclosures forward, but I don't think he is for that full disclosure, right? So for him to be really uncomfortable when all this was going on, again, here it's just some speculation that's going on in my mind, but maybe that certain partial disclosure narrative that a few of the powers that be really wanted to put out to hide the rest of their crimes and hide the rest of what's going on, maybe that has been completely quashed. Maybe this executive order is a step in the process of getting that full disclosure out there, and again, the rest of the people that wanted that partial disclosure, they're getting their cards are out of play. They're not getting that anymore because the full truth is coming out to humanity. Again, that's just a speculation. But also, I mean, this is the president is setting this up, so maybe the president doesn't know what's going on, right? That speculation I just mentioned is assuming the president knows what's going on in all these secret projects and has been read in on all of them. But of course, we know the president is often not read in on everything. So maybe the president is setting this all up to get more access to what's really going on in the secret space programs to bring that all out, okay? Either one of those speculations I think would really... Buzz Aldrin wouldn't be happy regardless of that, but who knows, right? Regardless of what speculation may be the case, I think this is a pivotal step in bringing a lot of these disclosures, a lot of this information out. So this was huge. This is big news, setting up this National Space Council. And next, I want to get into this story right here, which ties directly into a lot of the full versus partial disclosure discussion that I was saying up here. NASA denies running a Mars child slave colony. Okay, and this was a report that definitely circulated around the mainstream very heavily on June 30th, and I primarily saw this on an article by the Daily Mail, which got like 12,000 shares, hundreds of comments on this thing, so this thing definitely went viral. And the reason that this story blew up, this headline specifically, is because Robert David Steele, who I've interviewed on my channel, who I think is a certified badass, made comments on the Alex Jones show about his belief of there being a secret space colony that could very well be on Mars. Now, what happened is that the mainstream media caught wind of this, and they ran with it, and they put a bunch of bullshit out there, as they typically do. They were saying, you know, this crazy conspiracy theorist was talking about child sex slaves on Mars and all this stuff. But I actually have been in contact with Robert David Steele, and I want to specifically lay out to you guys what he told me. He asked me, what you can do for me is point out that I did not say child sex slave colonies on Mars. I was focused solely on the common sense perspective from a government that can do anything that it wants in secret of launching children into space to colonize far-off targets, okay? But what I want to say here, before we get down into these bullet points, is that there are so many whistleblowers coming out of the woodwork saying that, in fact, humans have been on Mars, and there very well likely is slave colonies on Mars already. We have William Tompkins, who has mentioned that actually the Nazis, when they were developing the beginnings of a secret space program in the 30s and 40s, had already sent groups of soldiers to Mars. He was actually discussing how when the Nazis sent one of the first mission to Mars crashed and they lost a whole group of men there. And this was in the 1940s, okay? We have Randy Kramer come out and say that he was actually stationed on Mars as a Marine. We have, of course, Corey Goode coming out and a lot of other people coming out saying that yes, in these secret space programs, we have been to Mars, okay? Bring it back in, as Robert David Steele said, that common sense perspective. There is plenty of research out there showing that the governments on our planet have had this technology, have had electrogravitic anti-gravity technology for 60, 70, even 80 years. And we know there's been trillions and trillions and trillions of dollars that have been funneled into black projects. So it is of no stretch of the imagination to say that, yes, humans are on Mars, okay? Back to these bullet points. What Alex Jones then did just a couple days ago on July 3rd, he actually came out and kind of covered his ass on his show and was saying that I don't believe in the alien topic because I think it's just a distraction. He was specifically saying, I don't believe any of this child slave colony Mars stuff. So in my mind, I'm either thinking that Alex Jones is either too pussy to come out and say the truth, or he's just trying to cover his ass. He doesn't want to go quite off the deep end and say these things on his show. So that was a very interesting development that I just saw this morning. I simply think, whether he doesn't want to threaten the attacks, character assassinations, things like that, for putting the deepest truths out there, or he's, too wussy, or whatever the case may be. That's what Alex Jones then did. And NASA, of course, has been denying this story. In this article on the Daily Mail, a NASA spokesman was actually, it was the Daily Beast, the David Brock Special Media Matters Daily Beast, that first put the story out there that NASA denied running the child slave colony. And then this circulated around, like, on the Daily Mail and whatnot. So, NASA, the NASA spokesman, Guy Webster, said that there are no humans on Mars, and, NASA denied it. Here's the thing. NASA can deny it because NASA's not the one running it. There's that, there's that misinformation. There's those specifics that you really need to understand that the mainstream media does. So of course NASA can deny it. They're not running it. It's the private corporations that are, okay? When Germany first began its secret space projects during World War II, it developed in aerospace corporations. Those scientists from the aerospace corporations then came into America under Operation Paperclip and went into aerospace corporations. NASA has always been the front, the public front, the facade that has kept that in secret. So, again, it's what's going on in the private corporations that are the big thing. And this blew up. So Robert David Steele made these comments, and of course, David Brock and all the people that have been, because of course David Brock is, like we know, connected very closely to John Podesta and the Clinton camp, okay? Now, I mentioned up here all that partial disclosure versus full disclosure stuff. Hillary Clinton, and this is evidenced in the WikiLeaks emails. I won't get too far into this, but Hillary Clinton is primary in that partial disclosure bait and switch. John Podesta is primary in it. So with Robert David Steele coming out and saying that humans are already on Mars, this is like deep. This is deep disclosure stuff. So of course, the Daily Beast, which is David Brock's, very connected to David Brock, which is connected to John Podesta and Hillary Clinton, would come out and really try to cover their ass and say, no, right? The deep stuff isn't going on. That's all fake. What they want to do is bring out a little bit of the truth. Maybe they'll disclose, oh, free energy's real. Oh, here's some secret space programs that are in existence, but, they've never been to Mars and all this stuff. So they want to bring out a little bit of the truth to hide the rest of their crimes. But let's be real. Nothing is going to hide Hillary Clinton and John Podesta's crimes. They can try to cover their ass as much as they want with truth like this, but it's not going to work. Because with Robert David Steele saying this and this blowing up on the mainstream, secret space program is hitting the mainstream now. Of course, the mainstream is brushing it off as a conspiracy theorist and calling Robert David Steele and all that stuff crazy. But this is hitting the mainstream. This is crucial because a lot of people are getting exposed to the ideas, and people will begin to research this. So this is huge. These ideas are hitting the mainstream. NASA has to cover their ass, right? People like Robert David Steele are becoming informed on this stuff, and a lot of other people, again, the disclosure ball is rolling. The consciousness is increasing exponentially. It cannot be stopped. So this is awesome. Even if they're calling Robert David Steele, they said in this article, they said he runs a conspiracy theory blog. Ha! Right? So this is hitting the mainstream. President Trump is signing in an executive order to set up the National Space Council. Whether this Space Council is going to start getting some type of disclosure rolling, or whether President Trump is trying to find out more information, right? We'll see. We'll see what's going to happen, but lots of huge things are going on the space front. How much does the president know? Again, we don't know, but I think we will know very, very soon. So that's where I'll end this one for you guys. Very exciting stuff happened while I was gone. I just wanted to get out there, and then I'm going to catch up with a lot of the new stuff that's going on. So expect a lot of these videos the rest of this week. And thank you all. Thank you all for your support on Patreon and PayPal. And a few of you have grabbed a bunch of the shirts I have in my shop down below and said that they're awesome. So thank all of you guys. And you'll be seeing a lot more of me in these videos. So stay tuned. Done.